Today on the podcast, I'm excited to have Stephanie Wilson joining us for a conversation today. It's good to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited about this.
Yes, I am too. So, before we dig in, tell me a little bit about yourself, what you do, who you are. Introduce yourself to the people.
Yes. Well, hello, people. I'm totally cozied up, like ready for this conversation. It's nighttime where I am, and so I'm like I feel like I'm dressed for like real life therapy. I'm ready for it.
Perfect. That's
Um,
perfect.
I'm Stephanie Mae Wilson. Officially, I am an author, a podcaster, and a course creator, a speaker. I do all kinds of things. And my kind of specialty is helping women in their 20s and 30s navigate some of life's biggest decisions and transitions. I've identified this time period that there's not really a name for that's kind of the second half of your 20s, first half of your 30s, I would say into your 40s, where you are making the majority of the most biographically significant decisions of your life all at the same time. And, you're figuring out like where you want to live and who you're going to partner with. And are you going to have kids? And if so, how many? And, maybe you're buying a house. Maybe you're cementing yourself in your career. It's all of these giant decisions. And there's not a blueprint for it, but there are a lot of opinions about what that should look like. And so my work is really being a friend, sister, big sister, just a couple steps ahead who gets to walk women through what that looks like. And really my goal is to help women turn the volume down on the opinions around them and
Mhm.
actually figure out what kind of life they want to live and take steps towards that because that's actually really hard. So that's what
Yeah.
I do for work. I have a podcast called Girls Night. I'm wearing a Girls Night t-shirt right now.
Yes, I've
I
been on your podcast a couple
It's
times.
so fun.
My
I've
daughter was
loved your
sporting
episode.
your girls' night sweatshirt the other day.
Love it. I love it. They're so cozy. Um, so yeah, I have a podcast called Girls Night. And then in my real life, I love girls' nights. That's one of the things that makes my heart the most like come alive the most is time with my friends. I have a great group of girlfriends. On the same subject, another thing that really makes me come alive is travel.
Mm,
And that's just one of the many reasons that my little family, I'm married to Carl. We've been married for 10 years, and I'm mom to Annie and Quinn, who are about to turn 4. They're identical twin girls. So we moved to Spain about 3 months ago, which is just pretty wild. So we're in kind of
yeah,
a like just yeah, crazy transition adventure with our family right now. But we are having so much fun and just really loving the fact that we took this leap. So
that's amazing.
I think that's it.
Speaking of transitions, I mean, it kind of makes sense why you're so passionate about helping people with transitions. It sounds like you've been through your own series of transitions from marriage to moving to babies to, entrepreneurship and everything in between. And I'm
Mhm.
assuming you're in your 20s and 30s.
Yes. Yes. It's one of the things that has been true about me my whole life is, I'm a firstborn type A. I'd say like A and a half, it depends, but like generally type A, um, people pleaser. Uh, I'm a 2 on the Enneagram. I love being, at harmony and connected to my people, who has anxiety. And so decisions have always been hard for me. And it's always been hard for me to tune out what other people think I should do or what like I always have looked to my right and left to be like, am I falling behind? Or is this what
Yeah.
this is supposed to look like? And
Yeah.
it wasn't, I mean, it took me a really long time and a friend grabbing me by the shoulders as I was spiraling one day. And she said, Stephanie, you get to decide. And I genuinely didn't know that. I didn't know that the life decisions that I was trying to figure out, the things I was deciding between weren't like right and wrong or good and bad. They were like right and blue or right and purple.
Yeah.
Like when I would pray about these decisions, and I feel like God was like, "Kiddo, it seriously is up to you. Like, what
Yeah.
I'll be with you either way. They're really both good options." And so it really has taken me years to sort of step into authority over my
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
And but it's been a really huge thing for me, and along the way, so I've struggled with all the decisions I've made along the way and really wrestled through them. Um, and then also, yeah, I've been through tons of transitions. My husband and I lost 4 jobs between the 2 of us before our first anniversary. So we had a lot of work transition right there up front. Um, we've moved a
Wow.
bunch. We've, yeah, lived in a bunch of different houses together. We've just all kinds of transitions. And then yeah, I guess the most recent one is moving to Spain, but before that, I would say the biggest transition was having our girls,
The babies.
the
Yeah.
babies.
Let me ask you this. When do you feel like you noticed that people were your measuring stick with regards to, okay, should I do this? Should I not? Or your compass? When did you notice you started to feel that way, specifically as a firstborn? Was it with your parents? Like, what's their take on it? Should I do this? Should I not? Was it siblings? Was it friendships? When do you feel like you started to play out that part of your personality?
I don't think with my parents, I'm one of those kids who has, I mean, we like every family has their stuff, but I'm one of those really blessed kids who just always felt unconditionally loved growing up, um, and supported no matter what I did. So, that's pretty incredible, I know. I think it was more friendships. Growing up, I've always had a group of friends, I've always really my friendships have been really important to me, but uh, they've varied wildly in their degrees of health. And so I have had a lot of friends that you could pretty easily put in like the mean girl category. And it's crazy because I think, generally we assume that relationships like that were like, oh, well, I mean, girls will be girls. And I would say we do not have to be that way. It does not have to be
Mm-mm.
that way. But people would say girls will be girls, middle school's tough. I mean, and it wasn't necessarily middle school, but, like, we don't treat it as something that could stick with you,
Right.
like
We don't treat it as trauma, which it is.
right, which it is, and I didn't realize that until I was in therapy, like, I don't know, I can't remember how long ago it was, like, maybe 8 years ago, and we're talking through all these different things, and I mean, I'm, like, pulling things out of the bottom of the bag, like, where your change is and your gum wrappers and stuff, like, trying to be like, "Okay, what do I need to talk to you about? What do I need to kinda clean up and work through in my life?" And then we started talking about friendships, and I was in instant tears.
Hmm.
And I was like, "Oh, I think that maybe some of those formative experiences with not being safe with friends who I wanted to, like, I think I learned pretty early that if you don't behave yourself, you get kicked out of the tribe real fast." And so I think that that's a lot of the work that I've been doing ever since is half of me is trying to make sure that I don't, like, lose my place in the whatever tribe it is. So I'm people pleasing, I'm, like, shape shifting, I'm, uh, stuffing down my own needs in favor of somebody else's. I'm just kind of pulling out whatever tricks I can to keep my place at the table. But then also, I've been trying to unlearn that and go, you're a human with needs and wants, and that is okay. And if someone decides, like, one of the people ask me, what is the one thing you wish you could go back and tell yourself earlier in life? And
Yeah.
basically, like 25 and earlier, if I could like grab my face, I would say, you do not have to be friends with people who are mean to you. And
Yeah.
actually, you shouldn't. You should not be friends with people who are mean to you. And I put up with so much for so long. And I just, like, I don't know why necessarily. Maybe I didn't know that there was another option, but there is. We don't have to be that way. So,
Yeah.
how did we get here?
Yeah, that is really interesting because The question of how and when did people become your
Your
compass?
compass. Your compass.
Mhm.
So I think it was like, I think in terms of, am I good enough? Am I dressed right? Am I funny enough? Am I too loud? Am I not loud enough? Am I whatever? Like, was always kind of dictated by my friends and
Let me
the not
ask
so good
you, let
ones.
me pause you there for a minute.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Like, why did you go into friendships almost with the the malleability? Like it wasn't solidified quite yet. So it was like I'm going in, my clay is still kind of malleable to what they say and think. I think part of that is a normal part of childhood, middle
Mhm.
school, high school. But I also think some of our formative years, we either have certain things spoken over us and solidified or not quite solidified.
Mhm.
So
I
tell me a
think
little bit about that within your family dynamic and just you as a person, your own insecurities, your own identity development.
I think that you know, I when I think about it, I think that a lot of it was age and was, I mean, because when the experiences that I'm thinking about where I think it started, where it was like, "Oh, I follow someone else's rules socially." I mean, it was like 4th grade, and I didn't I don't think I had knowing what I know now about the crew that I was working with, my family has always been really safe, and I've never had to learn to defend myself or, like, fight back or have a good comeback or have a tough skin or whatever, like, I just didn't need that in my family, and so I was interacting with people who then I think they would all say, "Well, I have brothers, and you don't have brothers." And I'm like, "Okay." So, like, I didn't have anyone older than me kind of picking on me or teasing me or whatever. That's true, but also now what I know is that their homes weren't safe, and I
Mhm,
think that in their own homes, they had some pretty like, they were dealing with some mean girl stuff with their own moms. And so it was learned. The kind of manipulative behavior that they were bringing into school at age 10 was like, "I can control you by ignoring you," or, "I can control you by making fun of you," or, "I can," and I felt kind of unarmed in that way. Like, I didn't know that I was
mhm,
supposed to develop those things. And then in terms of being malleable, I mean, for years, I was looking for some sort of, like, um, identity, yes, but it feels more like style. Like, who less like, am I worth anything? Or, like, who am I in a deep sense? It was more like, what category do I fit in? Or what would people say about how would someone describe me? Or how do I want
mhm,
to be described? Or and I mean, I was growing up in the age of like I mean, we all grow up in the age of this, but I was so influenced by the magazines and the like I don't like, whatever we had at that point. Poor kids today, goodness gracious, with the amount of information and input, but, yeah, I think I was, like, trying to figure out how to be cool and how to belong and how to fit in, and I watched a lot of teenage movies that made it seem like that was really important,
mhm.
and, so I was trying to figure out kinda what my social spot was,
Yeah.
and yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Um, I'm thinking about you with kids and me with kids, especially girls, and the fact that you can have a stable home, but still have a lot of space up for interpretation.
Mhm.
And it makes me wonder, do you feel like you came from a family who intentionally filled in this space with, here's the truth about you and life and people and peers and pressure and identity and social skills and what's okay, what's not okay? Or do you feel like it was more, like, supportive, but not the narrative wasn't necessarily filled in and you had to kind of fill it in for yourself?
I think it was like half and half. Um, like, yes, on both sides. My parents were really, uh, proactive about, like, certain things. Like, they were not in the passenger seat just kinda waiting to find out what happened. Like, they were took a really active role in my life and in, um yeah, in, like, guiding me. I don't necessarily know as much in, like, I think my dad would, in my memory, and granted, like, that's so unreliable for how my parents actually parented me, it's like, that's a lot of years and not, that you don't remember. Um, I remember my dad having more conversations with me about, like, character and sticking with things and how to have hard conversations with people and, like, how to stand up for yourself or how to, like, I just remember more guidance from my dad. My dad also has fantastic social skills. Um, I don't remember as much. I remember my mom being on the roller coaster with me, and that was nice, but, like, I don't think she, just with her whole life and her background, her own stuff, she didn't really have the skills to, like, teach me how to navigate the mean hallways of high school, you know?
Yeah,
I think she was, like, also hurt when I was hurt. And
yeah,
so, yeah. So I think
that's a
that,
good way
like,
to say it.
they also, my parents did, I mean, they talked me through all kinds of things. Both my parents are therapists. I don't know if you know that. They're both
Mm-mm.
psychologists. And so, I mean, I had some fantastic tools at my disposal that they knew how to talk to me about, like, I was doing EMDR before most people even knew how to spell EMDR. Like, really, I had some great tools at my disposal. Um, but I also think that, like, yeah, I think that they didn't, or my mom specifically didn't know how to navigate the interpersonal relationships that I was struggling with. I think they made her feel small and scared too. And, I think, oh, where was I going with that? I had an end to that thought. It's gone. It's gone. It's just gone.
It happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just, it's interesting because we talked about the void, and you were saying like 50-50, and
Yeah.
it just is a good reminder even for us as parents. We can't do it perfectly. That's the first good reminder. And then the second reminder is, what are we being intentional and proactive with?
Mhm.
Oftentimes it's spiritual. Sometimes it's like business driven. We want you to be successful, do this and that, school, education. But then social, emotional, relational,
Yeah.
the importance of us as parents just kind of speaking into those parts of our kids and checking in, and
I
it just
totally
kind of
remember.
equips you.
Yeah, so I remembered where I was going with that. I think, my parents did check in with me and walked me through all kinds of things that I would go through, but I don't know that they knew about some of the hardest moments. And not
Yeah,
because I was hiding them, but because I don't know that I knew that they were as impactful as they were, or I didn't know how to talk about them, or they were like little drips over a long period of time, or, it's like they were very present parents, but I just don't know that, like, I mean, I've had to spend a lot of time thinking about how I would do this with my own girls,
mhm, mm,
and I just feel like one of the things I want to do, and I have to be careful not to overdo,
right.
um, is checking in on how their
Yeah,
social things are going, because there were just are some things that, like, ate away at me for years, that if I could have just had someone, like, contextualize them, like,
yeah,
"Hey, the kid who's really mean on the playground generally isn't the kid who's, like, doing the best in life."
right, right, right.
Or, like, hey, I know you feel insecure about, gosh, probably everything when you're 13 years old, but you know what? Every single person does too. Every
Yeah.
single person. And I just spent a lot of years thinking I was the only one that had insecurities, or that I really was like the only one who couldn't build up an armor strong enough to keep my feelings from being hurt. It's like, no, the kid who's hurting your feelings absolutely has their feelings hurt as well.
Yeah.
You just don't see it.
One of the things we say a lot on our team, our counseling team, is behind every people pleaser was once a parent pleaser.
Mhm.
And it's just a good reminder, especially for us as firstborns, of being aware of that tendency and what we tend to hold back in relationships out of people pleasing. I don't want to burden them. They've already got enough on their plate. I'll deal with this myself. It's not that big of a deal. They probably don't have time for this. They've already helped me with enough. All the things that we can tell ourselves, and then we keep things in or make things minors that are actually majors,
Mhm.
needs that we think then, oh, it's just a preference. It's not actually a need. I'm fine. And we sort of create some problems for ourselves later on
Mhm.
down the road. And it's a good reminder for all of us who are firstborns.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, that's really good.
Okay, so now we have a good outline of how and, why it was so easy for you to look around at the measuring stick, the standard, the voices, the opinions of others. So here you are, in your 20s and 30s, trying to navigate your own choices, but then there's all these other people, all these other opinions, differentiating healthy relationships from not so healthy relationships, developing your inner voice,
Mhm.
being confident about who you are and who matches your life and who doesn't.
Mhm.
Um, as you're in that season, what was the most challenging thing to navigate within that context?
Pausing really quick. Do you want me to start talking do you want me to lead into the transition of having kids, or do you want me to go more like a decision that I had to make that was like, what do other people want me to do versus what do I want to do?
Whatever you feel like chatting about.
Hmm. Um,
You be your own compass.
um, uh, well, I think one of the questions that you like sent over, a handful of things ahead of time. And one of the questions was like, when was a time that you were not okay?
Mhm.
And I had to think about that because, you know, admitting that you're not okay is hard for everybody, I would say, for different reasons, but for me, one of my main reasons is like, well, I don't want to burden other people. I don't want other people are already walking uphill carrying so much stuff. I don't want them to have to carry me also. I'm like, like most people pleasers, I'm just have been working to be less so, but like convinced that I'm definitely more lovable if I'm not like dead weight on your shoulders. Um, uh, but one of the times that I really was like the least okay that I think I've been in my life, there's like a handful of moments that stand out, but probably the most recent was when my kids were born. And uh yeah, it was hardest it was one of the hardest seasons of my life. I still can't totally put a good like end date on it of like when did that lift? When did it start to get better? And I've wrestled for years with like, was it actually hard or was I just like a weenie? Or like, was it hard because I'm bad at this or was it actually that hard? And it's taken me years of like, it's taken me having years of space. My girls are almost 4 to be able to speak about my experience becoming a mom with the authority that comes with it being your story. Like, I'm allowed to feel however I wanna feel about that, and you can think of whatever you want about me, but that doesn't change how I see how it went. But for the longest time, I just was like, did I make this up? Did I or am I just awful at this? Or like, yeah, am I really weak? Like, is this just not hard for other people? Or yeah. And so it was hard for me to talk about like my genuine experience of becoming a mom and how I felt about it because like I didn't know what it meant I didn't know what it meant about me that it felt as hard as it did.
Yeah. And feeling like, is it acceptable? Do other people actually feel this? And when you are, I mean, like, let's look at Instagram for a minute. It doesn't look hard for many people on Instagram. There's a few that I can think of that, might talk about it in that way, but that's not the resounding message.
Mhm.
This is really, really, really hard. So
Yeah.
then you start to question your own abilities, strength. What what do you think was tell us about the hard. What was hard about it?
So leading up to me getting pregnant, we had a really hard time getting pregnant. And so we were fortunate enough to be able to do IVF and it was crazy. We finished our like the only IVF cycle that we were going to be able to afford. It was so expensive, so expensive.
Yeah.
And we had one healthy embryo, just one. And we were like, okay, I mean, we're so grateful to have one, but also we know that there are no guarantees at any step in the process, not even one that says like carefully researched and monitored and where you're taken care of as like hands-on as that process. So we had this one healthy embryo and we're like, okay, so yeah, I mean, so anything could go wrong. And then also we wanted to have more than one kid. Like, what does this mean for our family? And, so we, like, did the transfer, and we got the great news that I was pregnant, and I started to feel super sick really fast, and they were like, occasionally, like I was like, "I wonder if this means anything that I'm, like, so nauseous so fast." And went into our 6-month or 6-week appointment, and they were like, "Kids, you're having twins." And our one
Wow.
beautiful, healthy little embryo split in 2,
Oh
and
my goodness.
I know. So God like loaved and fished
Unbelievable.
my family. It was incredible. So my pregnancy though was like well looked after. I went to doctor's appointments all the time. Like one because we were finishing up the, IVF process and then it was like, well now you're having twins. So like we need to see you all the time. But then COVID hit. Like we were one of the last procedures before they closed down the clinic for COVID, and so we
Wow.
like barely got in. There's pictures of us going into the like different procedures and stuff, and like we have like Clorox wipes under our arm, like a whole like tub of them, and my whole first trimester was when we all thought that like Cloroxing the outside of takeout containers was necessary. And so like
Mhm.
the food of like or the smell of food mixed with cleaning products still like just could make me sick so fast. So I mean I was pregnant all through COVID. And I mean there was some blessing in that, but like I didn't miss anything. But also it was scary. We were
Yeah.
had to be super protected and then the girls were born in November. And, like, for the most part, though, even though it was a pandemic and I was having a twin pregnancy, like, being pregnant wasn't that bad. That part wasn't that bad. And so I kinda thought, like, maybe this is, like maybe we're on the upswing, Like, this is taking a long time and, been painful and hard and sad, and, like, maybe things are about to get better. And then, I had my girls, and that again was, like, seamless. I had a planned C-section that went totally according to plan. Everyone was healthy. We did no NICU time. Like, everything was great. And then, like, 2.5 days or 3 days after, I'm cut in half and my kids are taken out of my body, I'm sent home with them to keep them alive. And that's the part that I'm like, I will never get over that. Like,
Mm.
nobody wanted to monitor me, like, make sure, like, and I didn't have any complications. I didn't have anything. I just had like your standard run of the mill, you've been cut in half. You need to heal from that while keeping two babies alive. Like, so I didn't have any other extra complications. And that's huge in and of itself. But I just like going from I was so well cared for when I was pregnant to all of a sudden it was like I was starting a new job as like, I don't know, an intern on a TV set or something. It's like you don't sleep, you are on call all hours of the day, like nobody cares about your needs. Get me coffee, like, you're just going to run yourself ragged. You have no idea what you're doing. That's how I felt. But I was still healing from surgery. I was exhausted. I had just gone through a twin pregnancy. I had just gone through IVF before that. We were still in a pandemic. And I just like couldn't believe that like my kids, other people, my family, society, God, anybody expected me to be able to show up and like perform in that moment. It felt like I need to have a word with someone about the order of these things. Like there's not a care unit that like softens this landing. And like also, we had help. We had family who drove across the country to be with us for the first like many, many weeks that my kids were here. In some ways that was tricky because I was also navigating like adult relationships. Like,
Yeah.
hey, here's this tiny new baby. This is what we learned last night by watching YouTube videos about how we're supposed to feed them to keep them from spitting up all over the place. So, mom, can you like do this better? And like, so navigating adult
Right.
relationships also was tricky. But it's not like we weren't doing it with help. Um, my mother-in-law fed us for like weeks, like just doted on us for weeks. And still, I'm like, I barely survived. I barely
Yeah.
survived. And I don't
Yeah.
think, like, when I look back, I genuinely don't think I had postpartum depression. I know that I suffer from anxiety. And so I was like under the care of a psychiatrist all the way through my pregnancy just to make sure that I was like, yeah, just to make sure that like my brain was going to be in a good position for what I was about to go through. And so I really don't think that um like my brain other than, general hormones from
Hmm.
having babies and stuff. I don't know that there was any extra postpartum depression going on.
Or postpartum anxiety.
I think there was definitely some postpartum anxiety. But also I'm like, I hesitate to even call it that because I feel like when we call it that, it's like telling a woman that she's upset because she's PMSing. And you're like, no, I'm upset because I'm actually upset. Like I am hurting because I'm actually hurting, not because of this like pretend thing you can kind of put in a box. It was so difficult and it was so difficult around the clock for so many months. And that in and of itself was so like depressing and anxiety inducing that like
Yeah.
it didn't even matter like my hormones and my brain chemistry aside, it was like that is enough to make anyone a nutcase. And it definitely felt like that
Yeah.
to me.
Well, how I view even PMS, hormones, postpartum, all of that is if something typically is painful in my life, difficult in my life, and I typically see it in pastel colored, the hormones and the chemicals and the imbalance takes it to neon.
Mhm.
So it's not that it's like you're making something up now, but it's this thing that was a certain level or is a certain level naturally is now amplified to the next level.
Mhm.
So that's more of how I see it
Yeah.
versus the idea of like, oh, no big deal. It's just your hormones.
Mhm. Yeah, I like that. I like that
And I
better.
wonder how much of the pain and difficulty was amplified for you because there was other things going on, probably
Mhm.
for a very long time. as far
I mean,
as hormonal changes, no longer pregnant, in vitro, like all of those things, like to the next level,
mhm. Yeah,
squared, you know?
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's totally like it would make more sense for that to be true than to not be true, you know? But it's hard to like tease
Does
out
even
like,
that feel invalidating for you though? Like, no, it was just hard, period.
you know, a little bit. Why? That's so like it wouldn't for anybody else. Like it's hard that your body is doing this. That in and of itself is hard.
Yeah.
But I think like,
Well, I wonder if for you, you feel like some sort of weakness that you're not able to perform in the way that you want to perform. And so no matter what it is that's weighing you down,
mhm,
if it's not weighing other people down, it feels like a weakness.
yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's really true. Um
And
because
maybe
one of the
even the suffering in and of itself is being compared to, well, how are other people supposed to suffer? Not
oh,
just the good
100%.
stuff, right? But the suffering in and of it. Like, oh, they have a amazing outfit. I should get that amazing outfit. But then on the flip side, they're handling it like this, then I should be handling it like this, or even better than they're handling it. So why am I
100%.
not? Why am I
100%.
the one with postpartum anxiety? Why am I? No, it's this is just really, really hard and nobody's talking about it or
Yeah.
whatever, you told yourself during that really hard season. Or maybe
Yeah.
you put yourself down during that hard season. What's wrong with me? Why can't I do this? Why is this so difficult?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think I was really like I've never tried so hard at something and still felt like I was failing or like not doing it just like yeah, I was really I mean, something that's sensitive for me and it's funny, it's actually sensitive for my husband too, so we have to be careful about it because we're like, "Ooh, I stepped on that for you. I'm really sorry." Is like being told that we're not doing enough. We both are
Yeah.
like that's just kind of a trigger for both of us. And so I think that that's a message that I know I definitely heard in the postpartum season. It was like, I don't know what people were trying to say to me, but what I heard was, if you just like reworked this a little, or if you just had a slightly better system, or if you have you tried this? And I'm like, my husband is also a firstborn, type A, perfectionist. He's not a people pleaser, but he is like, if anyone knows systems, it is us. If anyone has optimized this, it is us. Like, so if we're failing at this point, it's because we're failing. Like it's not because it's because we're giving our full effort and we're not like we're coming up short here. And I think that that's how I felt. I think the thing that is so crazy to me about life with kids, and I think I don't know if this is specific to twins, and especially twins in the first handful of years. Anytime I talk to twin parents or like I twin parents see me out in the wild, they like stop me and go like, "You're gonna be okay." Like, and now I do that. Like we just grab each other and we're like, "You're gonna be okay." Like it's gonna be okay because it's so much. And but I think the thing that feels so wild to me about the first 4 years of being a mom is I know that self-care and soul care and being a human and, like, my needs and all these things, I know that they're important, and I know they're important for a bazillion different reasons. But, like, when there are 2 tiny people sobbing and clinging at your legs, and you have to and, like, they don't want anybody else or, like, you're the only one there or something. It's like you have to take care of them. There's not another option. And then you add something else in, like work. Well, for some people, work is a choice. For other people, work is like an economic must. It's a you have to work. If I'm going to feed these tiny humans, then some work has to get done. How do you square all of that? And
Yeah.
there's just not enough extra anything. Like the amount of sleep and focus and time and research and like health stuff and are their clothes too small and oh, they're crying in the middle of the night again. I thought we just finally got through that. Or like, I mean, the amount that it takes, there's just absolutely nothing left over. But you have to make there be something left over. And I just genuinely don't know that I've like fully processed. Like it's been 4 years. And I just don't know that I've like fully processed what that's been like. And also the next thought in my head goes, like, is it just me that feels this way?
Right.
Like, is everyone else just skating through this? I'm just bad at this.
Let me ask you two questions. Number one is, what makes you feel that you have failed? And number two, who do you feel like you have to prove yourself to? Like, even as you're talking, I hear you almost like there's like self-defense. Like, but there's nobody. So I'm like, who is that
Who's attacking me? Yeah.
shadow? Yeah. And then what makes you feel like you have failed?
I'm like processing this all in real time. I do think that like when you ask me that, I'm like, ooh, there is a voice. There's a
Mhm.
voice in my head that I'm like, "Oh, I want that person to be proud of me. I want them to think I'm doing a good job. I want them to approve of what I'm doing. I look up to them and I want to like, yeah, I care about what they think and I worry that they don't think I'm doing enough. And that voice or that fear got really loud. Um that fear got really loud in this last 4 years. I know I'm being like purposefully I know I'm being vague, but
And
I
that's
just
okay.
yeah.
You can protect those relationships by being vague
Yeah.
in this setting.
So
Um,
yeah, I do think that there's and but the question like my immediate follow-up question to myself is like, is that their thing or is it yours?
mm,
Like, is that anything that anyone else has put on me? Or is this like just this thing I carry around that's like, you're not doing enough, you're not doing enough, you're not doing
I
enough.
think that's a really good question to ask because the answer is both in a way. People will put stuff on us. People will say things that miss the mark or are laced with something that isn't healthy or good or positive. That will happen in life. But then it's up to me what I choose to receive from that, how seriously I choose to take that. If that comment then becomes my measuring stick or not. And now we're back to little Steph. It's those same lessons,
Mhm.
whether it's people who are close to you, whether it's a mean girl, whether it's even your husband at different points in your life, which it will be at some point. He's going to say something. Hey, you should have done that a little bit differently. Maybe you
Yeah.
should do this a little bit better. Here's how I
Yeah.
think you should wash these bottles. Like, whatever it
Oh
is.
my gosh, could murder the guy if we I mean, truly, like that was one of the toughest we don't fight a lot, like, we're both pretty solid communicators, and so we obviously get annoyed at each other, but we, like, make it through the conflict and repair it
Yeah.
in, like,
Yeah.
pretty decent time. But the most, like, bickery we've ever been was absolutely after my kids were born, and it was because we had more on our plate than we ever have had in our entire lives, and we
Right.
were, I think, both afraid that we weren't doing enough, but also we felt like we were doing so much that surely I'm carrying more than my share. But it was
Right.
like, "You're not. We're just both
Everybody's
carrying
maxed
way too
out.
much." Yeah, yeah, we're just carrying way too much. So yeah, we had it gosh, it really took us a while to figure out a new rhythm and also, like, his go-to when he was exhausted was, like I think that he dealt with some of his anxiety by, like, pushing extra hard. So he would, like, finish washing the bottles or, like, fold the burp cloths, and I would jump into bed as fast as I could because I knew we were gonna sleep for maybe 90 minutes max. And I'm like, my instrument, meaning my whole self, is like going to collapse if I don't get some sleep. I don't care at all about the burp cloths.
Right.
And he's over there going, "I feel like I'm the only one doing these chores." And I'm like, and so it took us a while to get through that, but we
Oh, I can
we made it.
only imagine. I can only imagine with twins.
It's 2 different people looking at the same hardship in different ways, you know? Like, his way is not wrong, my way is not wrong, but it has taken me years, and it's maybe the work of my life to practice, like, trusting my own voice. But, like, you know
Yeah,
what? It may be a better idea to just go to sleep right now. Like, maybe the
right.
burp class can wait. Like, they could, you know?
Where do you feel like you're at now with blocking out some of those voices, those standards that are unspoken or spoken?
Um, I feel like I'm absolutely at the best place I've ever been with it. It helps that I had to go back and, like, rewalk this road and follow the thread all the way back through my life. For my book that came out in April, it's called Create a Life You Love, How to Quiet Outside Voices so you can finally hear your own.
Hmm.
And it is absolutely, like, written from someone who is 2 steps ahead on the road, but, like I live on this road. Um, but it really, like, I really have learned so much in the last 10 years, but especially in the last handful of, like, there just is not one right way to do this.
Yeah,
There just isn't.
right.
And while I would like while I do care what some people in my life think, I care less. And I know that, like, the voices who might have critical opinions of my choices, that's more their stuff than it is mine. Like, that's way more about what they have going on than it is me. And the people in my life who are really able to fully be for me are behind me, like, no matter what.
Yeah. Just
So,
like
I think
God, when you said earlier, hey, you want to choose this way or this way? I'll be with you.
do it. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
And I think the same goes for healthy friendships, healthy relationships. Not that there's no such thing as right and wrong in life, of course, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about perspectives, opinions. Just because it's right for you doesn't mean it's right for me. Just because you do it this way doesn't mean my way is wrong. There's
Yeah.
so many different paths to
Yep.
raising children,
Yep.
to doing laundry, to cleaning your
Yep.
house, to
Yep.
parenting, to there's
Yep.
so many different paths.
Yeah.
And we can all agree to disagree and respect and honor each other and realize that there's room for your opinion because your opinion doesn't make me wrong. It just gives
Mhm.
me a different perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. I really I think that moving to Spain has been a really, really cool exercise in that. Like, it's something that this is an unconventional early childhood education choice that we've made.
Yeah.
And, but I really, just like we have with so many other decisions, we've weighed it and we've researched and we've thought about it and we've reflected on who we want to be and what's important to us. Um, and it's just like, next layer of proof to myself that, like, there's no one right way to do this. You get to choose and choose what is best for your family and your kids. Like, you get to decide. That phrase has just set me free over and over again. Um, and so, yeah, as we were thinking about picking up our whole lives and moving to a different continent, we're like, we get to decide. And this
Yeah.
is what we want to decide to do.
My favorite verse is from the Old Testament, one of my favorite verses that says, whether you go to the right or to the left, you will hear a voice from behind. saying, "This is the way, walk ye in it." And I don't think another verse could sum up better what God has put on your heart.
No. Also, like, that's the thing that's so incredible about scripture is that you're like, I've read that verse how many times? And I like that hasn't I haven't caught that as
Yeah.
much as I did just now, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. What a fun, difficult, freeing journey God has had you on, and learning to silence the outside voices and tune in to his voice and his presence and his path for your life. Protect that at all costs. Tell me, where can people connect with you, learn more about you, and get to know you?
Yes. So my like main hub is my website, stephaniemaywilson.com, and everything's there. My courses, we have a course for single women and women who are dating, and then for newlyweds that my husband and I are teaching. That's been so fun, and so special to get to teach. All my books are there. The link to my podcast, Girls Night. And you guys are obviously podcast people. We have just really incredible conversations over at Girls Night, and would love to get to know you. So yeah, my website, stephaniemaywilson.com. I'm also on all the socials at S. May Wilson.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and thanks for your vulnerability and for sharing your story.
Thanks for having me. This is such a special space you've created. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks, Steph. It was good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Take care.